What if I told you a profound shift is underway, one that could redefine the very core of American technological prowess? Imagine, for a moment, that the nerve center of innovation, the hallowed ground where the future of American tech is forged, is no longer exclusively found in the sun-drenched campuses of Silicon Valley. It's not confined to the bustling corridors of California, nor the towering skyscrapers of New York. Instead, the real pulse of tomorrow's breakthroughs might be beating 8,000 miles away, within the vibrant, rapidly evolving ecosystem of India. While millions of Americans grapple with the gnawing anxieties of job instability, the unsettling specter of AI-driven automation, and the insidious creep of falling wages, a startling truth has emerged. Some of the most influential and powerful technology corporations on Earth are now steered by leaders who first drew breath outside the United States. Names like Google, Microsoft, Adobe, these are not just corporate entities. They are architects of our digital future. And quietly, almost imperceptibly, beneath the daily cascade of headlines, a potent question is rippling through the heart of America's tech workforce. Is India acting as an indispensable partner, helping America secure its technological dominance in the future? Or is it, in a more existential sense, subtly replacing American engineers altogether? Stay with me, because the unfolding narrative, the true answer to that question, is far more complex and uncomfortable than you might initially conceive. Let's begin with a revelation that, at first glance, sounds almost surreal, too coincidental to be true. The Chief Executive Officer of Google, Indian-born. The Chief Executive Officer of Microsoft, Indian-born. The Chief Executive Officer of Adobe, Indian-born. This convergence of leadership at the pinnacle of global tech is not merely a statistical anomaly. It is a powerful, undeniable signal of a shifting global landscape. These extraordinary leaders didn't simply luck into their positions or slip in through some unguarded back door. They meticulously earned their stripes. They honed their formidable intellects at elite universities, often within the very American educational system that prides itself on meritocracy. They then navigated the labyrinthine corporate ladder, demonstrating exceptional vision and relentless drive, consistently outperforming their peers at every turn. To a significant segment of the American populace, this phenomenon is deeply inspiring. It stands as compelling, tangible proof that the aspirational narrative of the American dream, the belief that talent and hard work can overcome any barrier, still holds true and functions as powerfully as ever. And in all honesty, it does. Consider the undeniable impact. Under the transformative leadership of Satya Nadella, Microsoft didn't just grow, it resurrected itself, blossoming into one of the most valuable and innovative companies in recorded history. Similarly, under Sundar Pichai's strategic guidance, Google didn't just maintain its dominance. It evolved into an unparalleled, cash-printing juggernaut, a seemingly unstoppable engine of digital commerce and information. Yet, this remarkable story of leadership, while vital, represents only a single, uppermost layer of a much deeper, more intricate reality. Because even as these visionary CEOs ascended to the very apex of the corporate world, something far more profound and quietly revolutionary was unfolding underneath, something that most ordinary Americans never truly anticipated, never saw coming until it was already deeply ingrained. Over the span of the last 2 decades, American tech companies, driven by an unyielding imperative for efficiency and profit, made what appeared to be a straightforward, logical decision. They simply followed the cold, hard math. The astronomical cost of developing cutting-edge software within the fiercely competitive, high-wage environment of San Francisco's Bay Area had become a significant burden, often reaching exorbitant sums. The stark alternative? Developing precisely the same high-quality software in India, where the operational and labor costs were dramatically, almost unbelievably, lower. Initially, this offshore migration began innocuously enough, focused on relatively low-level tasks like customer support, handling consumer queries from halfway across the globe. Then, it incrementally expanded to include more specialized IT services, the digital infrastructure supporting these vast corporations. Before long, entire engineering teams, responsible for core product development, were being established and operated overseas. Suddenly, the very jobs that, for decades, had reliably offered a pathway to the American middle class. Roles paying a robust $100,000, $120,000, even $150,000 a year in the U.S., were increasingly being executed thousands of miles away. This wasn't happening because Indian engineers were inherently inferior or less capable. Quite the opposite. It was happening because they were demonstrably good enough, highly skilled, rigorously trained, and, crucially, dramatically cheaper. For the C-suite executives presiding over these multinational behemoths, this represented the ultimate triumph of efficiency, a masterclass in streamlined operations. For the discerning analysts and investors on Wall Street, it was hailed as nothing short of genius, a brilliant strategy yielding impressive returns. But for the American engineers, the experienced professionals who had built their careers on these opportunities, it felt like the very ground beneath their feet, their foundation of economic security, was slowly, inexorably dissolving. And here's the uncomfortable truth, the part that rarely finds its way into public discourse or corporate press releases. Outsourcing doesn't always manifest as immediate, mass job elimination, though it certainly can. Sometimes, its impact is far more insidious, more subtle, and ultimately, more pervasive. It freezes wages. When a company can seamlessly tap into a global talent pool, the American worker, once the default and often sole option, suddenly loses that privileged position. Every single salary negotiation, every discussion about compensation, now implicitly includes an invisible competitor, an equally skilled, often highly qualified individual, residing in a region where the cost of living permits them to accept significantly less for the same work. This phenomenon rarely registers as front-page news. It doesn't generate dramatic headlines or fiery protests. Instead, it manifests as a quiet, pervasive anxiety that permeates the tech workforce. It shows up in the silence of engineers who hesitate to voice concerns in meetings, in the trepidation of workers afraid to even broach the subject of a raise, and in the profound uncertainty of mid-career professionals who begin to question the fundamental value and market relevance of their hard-earned skills. Compounding this complex situation is the controversial H-1B visa program. Officially, the H-1B visa scheme was established with the noble intention of attracting the world's most brilliant minds, the top-tier talent, to bolster America's technological leadership. And undeniably, many H-1B visa holders are indeed genuinely brilliant, contributing immensely to innovation. However, a growing chorus of critics argues that, in practice, the system often creates something far more perilous, a highly vulnerable workforce. A worker whose legal status, their very ability to remain and work in the U.S., is entirely dependent on their employer's sponsorship possesses significantly diminished bargaining power. They are frequently compelled to accept longer hours, agree to lower pay, and, perhaps most critically, they are fundamentally disincentivized from complaining or pushing back. Not because they relish these conditions, but because they simply cannot afford the catastrophic risk of losing their job and subsequently, their visa status. For the corporations, this arrangement offers a valuable sense of stability, a pliable workforce. But for American workers, it often feels like a competition conducted under fundamentally unequal rules, a tilted playing field. And yet, despite these very real drawbacks and criticisms, simply banning or dismantling the H-1B program isn't a viable solution either. Because we exist in an undeniable geopolitical reality where the global landscape is undergoing seismic shifts. China, once primarily seen as a manufacturing hub, has rapidly transformed into a formidable technological rival, aggressively investing in and innovating across all sectors of advanced tech. In this increasingly competitive arena, the U.S. desperately needs strong, reliable allies. This is where India steps onto the global stage, offering something truly rare and invaluable, a vast, burgeoning pool of highly skilled technical talent, a widespread fluency in English that facilitates seamless communication, and, crucially, a broad alignment with American geopolitical interests and democratic values. Without the strategic partnership with India, many experts in the field firmly believe that America risks losing its crucial tech edge, not to Indian companies themselves, but to the rapidly advancing technological might of China. Therefore, the deepening U.S. India Tech Alliance is not merely an act of charity or goodwill. It is a calculated, essential geopolitical strategy. The inherent problem, however, is that grand strategies enacted at the national or international level, while necessary for collective security and economic advantage, often entail very real, sometimes painful, consequences for individuals caught in their wake. So, let's confront the truth directly. In this intricate web of globalization and strategic alliances, who truly emerges victorious? Big tech corporations certainly win, enjoying unprecedented profits and market dominance fueled by optimized labor costs. Investors win, seeing their portfolios swell as companies leverage global efficiencies to maximize returns. Consumers win with access to ever-cheaper services and products, the fruit of globalized production. And India's rapidly expanding middle class wins, gaining access to coveted jobs and economic advancement. But for many American engineers, particularly those seasoned professionals in the middle of their careers, who once formed the backbone of the domestic tech industry, there's an undeniable, palpable feeling that they are bearing the brunt of the cost, that they are quietly paying the price for this global transformation. This is not the outcome of some shadowy conspiracy or malevolent design. It is simply globalization operating precisely as it is designed to, a relentless, unforgiving force of optimization, constantly seeking the most efficient and cost-effective pathways. India isn't actively stealing America's future in the traditional sense. And America isn't simply giving away its technological advantages for free. Both nations are engaged in an intense, intricate competition within a rapidly evolving global economy, a world where talent increasingly knows no geographical borders and corporate loyalty often transcends national flags. The real, fundamental question isn't whether India poses an existential threat. The more urgent, pressing question is this: can America, with its vast resources and entrepreneurial spirit, reinvent its education systems, its workforce training programs, and its economic models fast enough to adapt to this new reality before the next truly transformative generation of tech jobs is conceived and born somewhere else entirely? Because the next Silicon Valley, the next true epicenter of groundbreaking innovation, might not look like a single, physical place on a map. It might instead manifest as a distributed, fluid, global network of talent, ideas, and capital. And make no mistake, that transformative race has already begun.